The Bargain of Necessity. Talon Reed watched the last of Earth's atmospheric shields flicker above Meridian Colony, the final habitable zone on a planet ravaged by centuries of climate collapse. As the colony's lead environmental engineer, he'd spent years trying to reverse the deterioration. But resources were depleted, and hope was a luxury few could afford. "The shield will fail within 6 months," he told the Colony Council, their faces grim in the dim light of the underground chamber. "Without new materials, we can't sustain it." Councilwoman Jara nodded wearily. "The other colonies have nothing to spare. We've tried negotiating with the lunar settlements, but—" "Excuse me," a voice interrupted from the shadows. A slender figure stepped forward, skin unusually pale even for someone who lived beneath failing shields. "I believe I have a solution for Meridian." The stranger introduced herself as Lyra, an intergalactic broker specializing in unique arrangements between civilizations. Her offer was as simple as it was shocking. The Astherians of the Nixus system seek a genetic consultant. Their sovereign, Zera Vex, has ruled for over 2 millennia, but their species can no longer reproduce naturally. They offer materials that would rebuild your shields tenfold in exchange for a partnership. "Partnership?" Talon questioned. Lyra's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Marriage. The sovereign requires a consort who understands genetic manipulation. Your work on human adaptation is precisely what they seek." The room erupted in whispers. Selling himself to an alien ruler was unthinkable, yet watching his people perish was worse. 3 weeks later, Talon stood in a transport vessel accelerating beyond the solar system. The journey to Nixus would take months in cryosleep, during which time the first shipment of shield materials would reach Meridian, a show of good faith. "Remember," Lyra had instructed during his preparation, "the Astherians value harmony above all. The sovereign is ancient and powerful. Your task is to please her, help her conceive an heir if possible, and ensure continued assistance for Earth." Talon had nodded, memorizing Astherian customs, studying their biology, practicing their formal language. He would become whatever was necessary to save Meridian. When he awoke from cryosleep, the first sight of Nixus took his breath away. A world of crystalline formations under twin moons, structures that seemed to grow rather than be built. The sovereign's palace rose like a violet mountain of geometric precision against a starlit sky. His first meeting with Zera Vex left him speechless. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her skin a pale lavender that seemed to shimmer with inner light. Her eyes, deep purple with no visible pupils, studied him with the weight of millennia. "Welcome, Talon Reed of Earth." Her voice resonated in a way that bypassed his ears and vibrated directly in his mind. "I trust you understand what is required." He bowed deeply, as instructed. "I am honored to serve as consort, Sovereign. My expertise is yours." That night, alone in chambers more luxurious than anything Meridian could provide, Talon reviewed his mission. He would pretend devotion, offer his scientific knowledge, and endure whatever strangeness came. The reports from home confirmed the shield materials were working. People would survive. That was worth any personal sacrifice. He studied his reflection in a crystalline surface, still human, still himself, but soon to be something else entirely. The companion to an ancient alien queen, a position no earthling had ever occupied. Tomorrow would begin the elaborate courtship rituals, and Talon couldn't afford to falter. "For Meridian," he whispered to himself, practicing the smile he would wear like armor. A false devotion that, with luck, would save everything he truly loved. Part 2. Violet Shadows. Talon spent his first lunar cycle on Nixus learning the intricate rhythms of Astherian court life. Each morning began with meditation beneath the crystal dome where 3 suns cast prismatic light across the palace grounds. Each evening ended with formal dinners where he sat beside Zara Vex, carefully mimicking the exact angle at which she held her utensils. The sovereign remained distant yet watchful. She spoke little during these public gatherings, but Talon could feel her attention like a physical touch whenever he interacted with her advisors. "You adapt quickly for an Earthling," observed Nyx Ren, the chief geneticist who had been assigned as Talon's guide. Unlike the sovereign, Nyx Ren's skin was a deeper purple, almost indigo. "Survival requires adaptation," Talon replied, earning a rare smile from the scientist. "Perhaps that is why the sovereign chose you. Our people have forgotten how to change." It was during his 3rd cycle that Talon was finally summoned to Zara's private observatory, a vast chamber at the palace's highest point, where the ceiling opened to the cosmos. She stood alone, silhouetted against the spiral arms of the galaxy. "Your world has sent confirmation of the 2nd shipment's arrival," she said without turning. "Your people seem pleased with our materials." "They are grateful, Sovereign," Talon responded, maintaining the prescribed distance of 4 steps. "The new shields will protect Meridian for generations." "And you," she turned then, her eyes reflecting starlight. "Are you content with our arrangement?" The question surprised him. "My contentment is irrelevant. I serve as agreed." Something like disappointment flickered across her features. "Come closer," Talon read. He approached cautiously. Up close he could see faint patterns beneath her skin, luminescent pathways that pulsed with her heartbeats. Her fingers, long and elegant, hovered near his face. "May I?" He nodded, and her cool touch traced the contour of his cheek. The sensation sent an unexpected shiver through him. "Your species feels so deeply, burns so brightly, lives so briefly. I sometimes wonder if that intensity is worth the brevity." "Is that why you sought a human consort?" he asked, surprised by his own boldness. Zara's lips curved slightly. "Partially. Your genetic adaptability interests me scientifically. But yes, I wish to understand the species that continues to survive despite all odds." She stepped away. "Tomorrow you will begin working with Nyx Ren on the reproduction initiative. Tonight I would hear about your Earth, not the dying world of official reports, but your memories of it." That night changed something between them. Talon spoke of Meridian's underground gardens, of rainfall during the rare days when the shields allowed it, of community feasts where music echoed through tunnels. Zara listened with an intensity that seemed to draw the stories from him. In the cycles that followed, their meetings became regular. Talon's work with Nyx Ren, attempting to reverse engineer Astherian fertility, provided natural conversation topics, but increasingly they discussed poetry, philosophy, and history. She showed him ancient artifacts from civilizations long extinct. He taught her earth games that made her laugh, a sound so rare that servants would stop and listen when it echoed through corridors. "The court whispers about us," Zara mentioned one evening as they walked through the suspended gardens, where exotic flora floated in anti-gravity fields. "Does that concern you?" Talon asked, offering his arm in a gesture he'd learned was considered intimate among Astherians. She placed her hand on his arm, her touch lingering. "I have ruled long enough to ignore whispers, but you should know there are factions who disapprove of our closeness." "Political concerns?" "Some fear change. Others fear I might develop attachments that cloud my judgment." Talon hesitated, then covered her hand with his. "And have you?" he asked. Zara's eyes met his, vulnerability visible for the first time. "I find myself thinking of you when you are not present. This has not happened to me in a very long time." The admission hung between them, fragile as crystal.
Talon realized with sudden clarity that the man who had come to Nyx's prepared to pretend love for his planet's sake now found himself falling into something genuine, something that complicated everything.
Unexpected miracle. The news spread through the palace like wildfire. The sovereign had canceled all court appearances. Rumors swirled. She was ill. She was planning a purge of dissenters. She was developing new evolutionary enhancements. Only Talon and the royal physician knew the truth. "It's impossible," Dr. Vesh insisted, rechecking her instruments for the 5th time. "Asterians haven't conceived naturally in over 400 years. Yet the evidence was undeniable. Zara Vex, sovereign of the Asterian Dominion, was pregnant. Talon paced outside the medical chamber, his mind racing. Their genetic work had focused on artificial methods, splicing, external gestation, cellular regeneration. Nothing they'd developed should have enabled natural conception. When finally permitted inside, he found Zara sitting motionless on a crystalline examination platform, her expression unreadable. "The physician believes this is impossible," she stated flatly. Talon approached carefully. "What do you believe?" "I believe the universe occasionally defies scientific understanding." Her hand moved to her abdomen, still flat, unchanged. "The question is what we do now." That question became more urgent when the High Council demanded an explanation for her absence. Tradition required transparency regarding the sovereign's health, yet announcing the pregnancy would cause unprecedented political upheaval. "Some will see it as a miracle," Nyxrin advised during a private meeting in the sealed laboratory. "Others will view it as contamination of the royal lineage. And some might see it as a threat," added Talon, who had begun noticing increased surveillance from the security forces. Zara made her decision with characteristic directness. She called an assembly of the full court, appearing before them in ceremonial attire that accentuated rather than concealed her condition. "For millennia we have feared extinction," she announced, her voice resonating through the great hall. "Today I bring news of continuation. The consort from Earth has accomplished what our greatest scientists could not. I carry the future of our species." The response was immediate and divided. Some counselors fell to their knees in reverence. Others stormed out in protest. The military commander, Vextor, watched with calculating eyes that made Talon instinctively step closer to Zara. That night, after the tumultuous assembly, Zara found Talon on the observatory balcony staring at the distant blue dot that was Earth. "You're thinking of home," she observed. "I'm thinking of many things." He turned to face her. "When I came here, I had one purpose, to secure help for my people. I was prepared to play whatever role necessary." Her expression stilled. "And now? Now I find myself with divided loyalties." Talon took her hands in his. "I care for you, Zara, not because of our arrangement, but despite it. What grows between us, both our child and our bond, it's real to me." "Yet you began with deception," she said quietly. He couldn't deny it. "Yes, I came prepared to fake devotion for Meridian's sake." "When did that change?" Talon considered. "Perhaps that night in the observatory when you asked about Earth's oceans, or maybe during the Aurora storm when you sheltered my mind within yours. It wasn't one moment, but many." Zara's hands tightened on his. "There are factions already moving against us. Vextor has requested genetic verification of the child, a procedure that carries risks. The outer colonies are demanding explanations. Your people send messages questioning when you will return." "What do you want, Zara?" he asked simply. The question seemed to startle her. In all her centuries of rule, perhaps no one had asked about her personal desires. She finally said, "I want this child. I want to discover what becomes of a being that is both Asterian and human. And I find that I want you beside me, not because of treaties or arrangements, but because when you are near, I feel less eternal, less alone." Talon pulled her close, feeling the subtle warmth where their child grew, an impossibility made real. His lips found hers in the gentlest of kisses. "Then we face whatever comes together," he promised.
But we should be prepared. Vextor's interest concerns me. As it should, came a voice from the shadows. Nixren emerged, eyes wide with alarm. Forgive the intrusion, Sovereign, but the military has seized the genetics laboratory. They claim authority to conduct independent tests on the royal bloodline. I fear they seek not verification, but control. As the three of them quickly formulated plans, Talon realized how completely his life had transformed. He had come to Nixus as a reluctant sacrifice for his people's survival. Now he found himself fighting not just for Earth's future, but for his child's, and for the remarkable violet-skinned woman who had awakened something in him he'd never expected to find so far from home, belonging.
Beyond the cosmic tide. The grand birthing chamber, prepared according to traditions thousands of years old, stood empty. Instead, Zara Vex labored in a reinforced sanctuary deep beneath the crystal mountains, surrounded only by those she trusted absolutely: Talon, Nix-Ren, and two loyal physician priestesses. The dominion above them had descended into factionalism. Vextor's attempted coup 3 weeks earlier had been thwarted, but not before he escaped with critical genetic data about the pregnancy. The conclave of elders had gone into deep meditation, seeking guidance from ancestral memory. Meanwhile, unusual energy signatures had been detected at the system's edge, either curious allies or the dreaded Void Weavers approaching. None of this mattered to Talon as he supported Zara through each contraction, her normally composed features contorted with pain, her violet skin glowing so brightly it illuminated the entire chamber. "The convergence accelerates," murmured one priestess, monitoring crystalline instruments. "Both physiologies are in flux." Talon had feared this moment since his confession weeks earlier, when he had finally revealed the full truth about his initial mission and Meridian's desperate demands. Zara had listened in silence, her ancient eyes unreadable. "Did any of it begin as real?" she had asked finally. "No," he admitted, "but everything it became was real beyond anything I could have imagined." After long consideration, she had made a decision that stunned him: to send a delegation to Earth with technology far beyond what had been originally promised, not because of their arrangement, but because, as she put it, "Your people are now my child's people too." That act of grace had dissolved the last barriers between them. Now, as Zara fought to bring their impossible child into existence, Talon whispered encouragements, his forehead pressed against hers. "The membranes separate," announced Nix-Ren suddenly. "We must stabilize the quantum fluctuations or lose them both." What followed was a blur of desperate measures: crystalline energy infusions, genetic stabilizers, and finally Talon offering his own blood for an emergency transfusion when the hybrid physiology of their child began rejecting both human and Astharian cellular patterns. "Adaptive proteins," Talon insisted, despite the physician's concerns. "My engineering work on Meridian focused on environmental adaptation. My blood might provide a bridge." Hours later, exhausted beyond measure, Zara held their daughter, a tiny being whose skin shimmered between human tones and subtle lavender, depending on her emotions. Her eyes, when they opened briefly, revealed irises of deepest purple with distinctly human pupils. "She's perfect," Talon whispered, gently touching the infant's hand. 5 perfect fingers curled reflexively around his one. "She needs a name," Zara said softly, "one that honors both worlds." They named her Nova Lyra Reed Vex. Nova for the star phenomenon, Lyra after the broker who had unwittingly brought them together, Reed from Talon's heritage, and Vex for the ancient royal lineage. Their moment of peace lasted precisely 3 days. The sanctuary's alarms triggered during the child's first formal examination. Above them, the palace defenses activated against multiple incursions: Vextor's loyalists from within, and something far more ominous from beyond. "The Void Weavers," Zara confirmed, studying sensor readings while cradling Nova protectively. "They've breached the outer system."
We need to evacuate, Nixren urged. The royal contingency protocols would separate us, Zara interrupted. Traditional protocols would send the sovereign and heir in different directions to ensure at least one survives. Talon shook his head firmly. We stay together. Nova needs both of us to survive. Her biology is too unstable otherwise. What followed was a desperate escape through ancient tunnels beneath the Crystal Mountains. Nixren sacrificed himself at a crucial junction, holding off Vextor's forces while the royal family and loyal guards continued toward the hidden emergency vessel. As they prepared for launch, a transmission from the conclave of elders reached them. The prophecy speaks not of ending, but transformation. The child bridges worlds. This is her purpose. The cryptic message made little sense until they reached space and witnessed the confrontation unfolding. The Void Weavers, amorphous beings of dark energy, surrounded the planet, attempting to penetrate its defenses, but wherever they touched Nova's genetic signature in the planetary network, their energy dissipated. She's not their prey, Zara realized with sudden clarity. She's their evolutionary counterpoint. What they consume, she creates. Talon understood a balance, just as she balances human and Astharian within herself. The realization brought both solution and purpose. Using the ship's communication array, they broadcast Nova's unique genetic pattern throughout the system. The Void Weavers recoiled, then began a retreat that resembled less flight than transformation. In the aftermath, they received another transmission from Earth. The Astharian delegation had arrived at Meridian with the promised technology and something more, an invitation. The colony was welcome to establish a settlement on an uninhabited continent of Nixus, beginning a true integration of the species. 1 year later, Talon stood on the balcony of the rebuilt observatory, holding Nova as she reached curiously for the stars above. Her skin shimmered with excitement, the violet undertones brightening as she babbled in a mixture of human words and Astharian tonal expressions. Zara joined them, her regal bearing softened by motherhood, but no less powerful. The Dominion had stabilized under a new council that included representatives from Earth's settlement. Vextor remained in exile, a diminished threat. The Void Weavers had not returned, though sensors occasionally detected their energy patterns at the system's edge. Observing, perhaps. Learning. The Elders believe she will live for centuries like an Astharian, but adapt to change like a human, Zara said, watching their daughter. The best of both, they say. And the difficulties of both, Talon added, thinking of the challenges ahead for a child of two worlds. Worth every moment, Zara replied, her hand finding his. I ruled for nearly 2,000 years believing immortality was about unchanging continuity. Now I understand it's about evolution, becoming something new without losing what came before. As Nova drifted to sleep in his arms, Talon reflected on his journey, from desperate deception to genuine love, from Earth's last engineer to father of a new evolutionary branch. The stars above included both the distant sun of his birth planet and the triple stars of his new home. For someone who came to Nixus prepared to pretend, Zara observed with gentle amusement, you've discovered quite a profound truth. Which is? He asked, though he already knew her answer. That love, real love, is never pretense. It's recognition, seeing yourself in someone vastly different, and being forever changed by that vision.